adjust this because Steve is so freakishly tall. Well, I guess all of us here who are UT fans can breathe a sigh of relief. The NCAA has accepted UT's proposed penalties with regard to football. So let's have a round of applause for our state university. No longer in danger of the death penalty or anything really serious in football. You know, I think a lot of people think the NCAA has been soft with Tennessee over the years, but that's just not true. In fact, I've got an excerpt from the finding here. Some of the harshest language I think I've ever seen. In the sport of football, it was alleged that major violations occurred in the conduct of the program, including recruiting activities undertaken by student interns. Now, those were the hostesses, if you recall. The committee concluded that the evidence was insufficient to support findings of major violations. However, the committee, and I want to emphasize this, was troubled by the number and nature of the secondary infractions by the football coaching staff during its one-year tenure at the institution. From January 2009 through October 2009, the staff committed 12 violations, all connected to recruiting. Some of the violations received nationwide publicity and brought the football program into public controversy. And here's where I think the NCAA really hit them hard. This is not a record of which to be proud. Nevertheless, because the violations individually were secondary and most were isolated in that 9-month, 12 infraction period, the committee in the end did not make a finding of major violation. And as you heard, the thing about the interns off campus, that was never proven. They were just the pictures. As you know from the old Marvin Gaye song, Hurry Through the Grapevine, believe only half of what you see, and 50% doesn't meet the burden of proof with the NCAA. UT did impose certain penalties on its football coaching staff. They reduced by 50%, from 10 to 5, the number of football coaching staff members permitted to make recruiting phone calls on the first day of November. They also reduced the number of visits UT players are allowed to make not to Knoxville pilot stores per month from 10 to 6. And finally, UT coaches will no longer be allowed to have free soft drinks during coaching staff meetings. Now, I thought we ought to go back, just again for people who don't think that the NCAA is even-handed when they deal with Tennessee versus, say, the University of Memphis. I went back and pulled the Infraction Appeals Committee report of the University of Memphis, and I'm going to read you this. I think it indicates they were pretty much scrutinized both institutions. In October 2005, the former head coach gave a student athlete a pair of used Champion basketball shorts and a University of Memphis hat and t-shirt unrelated to permissible equipment. The shorts had an approximate value of $10, and the hat and t-shirt had an approximate value of $15, and that was found to be an impermissible extra benefit. By the way, that was the women's golf coach who did that, and they were put on probation. So anyway, the point being, UT is clear, and I don't think there was any uneven-handedness involved. Father Vera, that was a great rebel cheer you led, but I'm wondering now with the new mascot, instead of "Are you ready?" should it be "Are you Teddy?" I know that Coach Nutt would never blame last year on the lack of a settled mascot when the season began, but I've got to feel like things will be a lot better this year that Rebel Bear has beaten out the Rebel Land Shark and Rebel Hottie Toddy as the new mascot. I do worry about negative connotations associated with the bear. Nobody likes a bear market, unless like me you're a short seller. The symbol of the old Soviet Union was, of course, the Russian bear. And here in Tennessee, the legendary Davy Crockett was supposed to have killed him a bear when he was only 3. Actually, the song uses the word bar instead of bear. And I started thinking, wouldn't a bar be a more appropriate Ole Miss mascot? I mean, let's be honest, most Ole Miss students know more about bars than bears. You can spend time in a bar in Oxford without necessarily experiencing personal injury, at least when the football players aren't there. And but by contrast, you probably will be injured if you spend any time inside a bear. Coach, it's been a fairly quiet year. First of all, I went back and looked at last year, and I think I was a little hard on you about Jeremiah Mazzoli. As you predicted, he appeared to be a perfect student athlete. I'm guessing is finishing up his master's thesis now in Parks and Recreation. And I'll have to say, it's obvious to me that your guidance of the young man was helpful. I think he's out with the 49ers now.
That's correct.
And I noticed that first exhibition game weekend there was a big fight in the parking lot, but he was not associated with it. So have to commend you on that. I did see that Randall Mackey was injured when he was shoved into a police officer. Is that correct? And I believe you did suspend him. I know that's got to be difficult knowing how to dish out discipline to young men, and you probably got a library full of these books. But I went on Amazon and found a new book just published. I think might be helpful to you. It's titled "When Bad Things Happen to Good Passers." A hands-on guide to disciplining college quarterbacks in the 21st century, written by Steve Spurrier. As you may know, Coach Spurrier has had occasional problems with Stephen Garcia over the course of Stephen's 6 years at South Carolina. And if I just might, Chapter 5 is titled "The Timely Suspension." If I could read just a bit here. When other disciplinary measures fail to produce results, a period of suspension from athletic participation may be required. Psychologists at the University of South Carolina have determined that the most effective periods of suspension are early January to mid-March and late spring until early August. Just a few other odds and ends. You guys take on BYU, which is going to be a tough game for you. And you might just pass this along to your players and trying to get inside the heads of the BYU players. Most Mormons don't have great senses of humor. That's been my experience. When I was a young lawyer, I spoke to a group at the Church of Latter-day Saints, and trying to loosen things up, I used the old Henny Youngman line, "Take my wives, please." None of them seem to find that the least bit humorous. Just a couple of other passing notes. University of Memphis opens with Mississippi State here on Thursday night. There are good tickets remaining, $50 per seat. Or, because they are our hometown university, I would encourage you to go the extra mile, spend $60 and get a whole season ticket. I think that's the least we can do for the University of Memphis. And finally, I guess the big game in the conference this weekend is LSU versus Oregon. And the good news is Les Miles has told the Baton Rouge papers that he has found a reliable kicker. So thank you very much.